Welcome back to Life at Leyton, the podcast where we dive into the people and stories shaping our business. Today we're joined by Darragh Gaffney, our Irish business lead. Darragh brings a wealth of experience in innovation and business growth, and he's been at the heart of Leyton's exciting journey in Ireland. In this episode, we'll be talking about what drew him to Leyton, his vision for the future of the Irish business, and the opportunities he sees ahead. We'll also get to know a bit more about Darragh on a personal level, what motivates him as a leader, and what inspires him outside of work. Darragh, welcome to the podcast. It's great to have you here.
Thanks very much, Sarah.
Before we dive into your role at Leyton Ireland, could you tell us a bit more about yourself and your journey so far, both professionally and personally, and what shaped you along the way?
Perfect, and thanks very much, Sarah. So I come from a technical background, so I have from a very long time ago now at this stage, but I've an undergraduate in chemistry and a PhD in biotechnology. So studied both in University College Dublin and the University of Limerick, obviously both in Ireland. After that, I took a job. I went into industry. I joined a company called Analog Devices into the world of semiconductors, and worked there as a senior process engineer, primarily with a research and development function, actually, so into a new area that they were building out on the manufacturing side of the house. And I always credit Analog with actually industrializing me, taking me from the world of doing a PhD, being quite academic, being allowed to go off on research tangents, to actually then putting structure on the work that I was doing on a day-to-day basis. However, I knew that if I wanted to stay with somewhere like Analog Devices, I was going to have to retrain as an electronic engineer, and I wanted to get back towards my chemistry and biochemistry roots instead. So after that, I took on a role as a customer application scientist with a really exciting and budding startup called Monaghan Biosciences. Although call it a startup at the time, they already had about 12 scientists and were already making serious disruptive waves in the area of enzymes and biofuels. After 9 months of being there, I got promoted to R&D director as a result of that, and grew that team from a team of 12 scientists up to just over 30. And I always say that is the area where it completely broadened my horizons. Because as the R&D director for a business like that, I had not only a commercial responsibility and a commercial function, but I also had to drive the team to be leaner, meaner, and deliver on the commercial priorities of the business, and make sure that the research and development we were doing actually aligned with our commercial priorities. To do that, I got extremely au fait with the likes of tax incentives and grant funding opportunities. So that was probably my first real tangible interaction with the R&D tax credit scheme in Ireland, as well as securing a significant grant funding for our R&D operations from the likes of Enterprise Ireland, but also from the European Union as well. After that, I spent nearly 7 years there. It was part of the Monaghan Mushroom Group, Monaghan Biosciences. We were pushing the boundaries there. And after that, I actually went into consulting for a number of years, or not for a number of years, for a number of months. I actually set up my own business. I had always prioritized building a personal and professional network when I was working. And so when a number of people found out I was wrapping up my time at Monaghan Biosciences, they actually asked me would I come and consult for them and help them to do and transfer those learnings into their businesses. So I did that for just under a year, and then joined the Industry Innovation Network, IRDG, or the Industry Research Development Group. Fantastic innovation network, over 300 members in Ireland, all active in the area of research and innovation. And while I was with IRDG, I was Director of Growth and Sustainability there. It was really about, again, transferring those learnings, so nearly like a macro consultancy style role, making sure that businesses had the processes and procedures in place to actually layer in and make sure they were maximising the likes of their R&D tax credits and also their innovation funding pipeline. And again, ensuring that actually they were aligned with their commercial priorities. These things sound obvious in retrospect, and especially sitting here now saying that back to you, but quite often businesses are so busy with the day-to-day. They've got 20 million things to manage. they need to keep the lights on. Research and innovation and making sure that that is a business priority can sometimes fall down the priority list. So absolutely loved my time there with IRDG, and then that takes me to where I am now. I think just hit the 5-month mark with Leyton, and heading up the Irish office and the Irish operations, and delighted to be in situ, sitting here chatting to you today.
We are delighted to have you here, and it's been a busy 5 months for you, I think. You've had a brilliant career looking at both the very technical side of R&D and then also looking at commercialising that. What attracted you to Leyton? Why did you decide that this was the right next step for your career?
Yeah, and ultimately I could wax lyrical about a lot of different bits and pieces, Sarah, but ultimately it was the people. And it was the people from Leyton that I met and that I'd interacted with. I'd had multiple kind of, I suppose, touch points with you guys in about the 2 months or the 2 years, leading up to joining Leyton. And every time I met somebody that was already an existing Leyton employee, you could feel that ambition, you could feel the culture, you could feel, that performance-driven approach while being supported. So I think ultimately it was that. Secondly, on a personal level, I was at a stage in my life and my career where I wanted to build something, and I wanted to build something not completely from the ground up or from scratch, but knowing that I had the support of that kind of larger entity behind me. I've lived and worked in the startup world before, and having set up my own consultancy, I knew from then that actually going out on my own and building something, bootstrapping from the ground up, it's just not me. However, I knew what needed to be done, and then delighted then to be able to have that support. So ultimately, I pitched that to Brian, the managing director of UK and Ireland, and he liked what he heard, and I loved what I heard, and the support and the culture, and that only reaffirmed every touch point that I'd already had, and so that brings me to where we are now. When I started in late April, and to the point of where we are today.
Yeah, a lot of good work already done. A lot I think that you should be excited about for the future, and we'll cover that in this podcast today. So can you tell us a bit about Leyton Ireland right now, the team that you're building, and what makes Irish market unique?
Sure, and I might start with the market first and foremost. I think the Irish market, one, needs a different approach. I think in some marketplaces, business can be quite transactional. In Ireland, it's not. It's all relationship driven, and it's who knows everyone. And you may not realise it, but if you talk to somebody and you pitch a business proposal to them, 9 times out of 10, they'll probably make a phone call or two to 2 or 3 of their business friends and ask, do you know these guys? What are they like? Should I do business with them? And to be honest, it will be on the strength of that yes, no, maybe, that whether the business will actually proceed. So it's a very relationship driven market. The second thing is, and funny, I was actually just looking at the Northern Ireland HMRC figures that were released the other day. Irish businesses massively underclaim in the R&D tax credit sphere. I know we deal on a whole raft of innovation funding incentives, full stop, but the big one in town in the Irish market is the R&D tax credit. At the moment, for the Northern Irish economy, which is approximately a third the size of the Irish economy, the same number of businesses claim the same value in Northern Ireland as claim in Ireland, and that's just one metric that shows you. The second thing is that in any other geography where an R&D tax credit scheme exists like this, approximately 4 to 6% of all registered businesses actually use the scheme. In Ireland, I've been told it's 0.4%. I actually think it's less than that, given the number of businesses that are claimed and the numbers that we have from the Central Statistics Office. So it just shows you the massive opportunity that is there from a marketplace point of view. In terms of that, what am I trying to build, or what am I building in Ireland at the moment? Well, it's a really exciting time, and I honestly feel I'm exactly where I wanted to be when I thought about what my ideal position and the ideal position I'd want to be a year ago, and when I envisaged that, and that is building a dynamic, agile, entrepreneurial team to be able to take on the Irish market. And ultimately, to, in the phase one anyway, or the initial phases, act as a disruptor into the market. Bring a new service model that the big four or the big six just don't deliver into the Irish market. Remove those barriers for Irish business to claiming the R&D tax credit. How am I trying to do that? Well, it has to be the team. I mean, ultimately, I'm building a team of 6 in year 1, equally split across sales and business development functions, as well as technical and financial consultancy roles, and we'll want to build that out significantly as the years go. My ambition is to double that in year 2 and then to treble that in year 3. And the success that we've already had in the first 5 months demonstrates that we're on the right path already to be able to achieve that. So I want to be able to, in a year's time, be coming in, sign off to go, I've 6 in situ, here's the justification to double that to 12, and year 3, here's the justification to double that to 25 again. So that's, and we're on track, so it's fantastic.
That's a great space to be in 5 months in, with, as you say, the opportunity of businesses that aren't claiming at the moment. There's just such a great market for a team who is ambitious, who's driven with the skill set to go after. What are the big priorities for growth in Ireland over the next year, and how will they shape the way that we work with clients?
Sure. I think the big opportunities for growth here is I think Leyton, quite often in geographies, but especially in Ireland, is the largest global consulting firm you've never heard of. And I think that is probably the biggest challenge, and it's one of the biggest areas of focus that I put my time in. It's building those connections, it's connecting in with other industry networks into the research and development and innovation ecosystem in Ireland, and so that we become that trusted partner within the ecosystem, rather than just seen as somebody who's in to just service a client, deliver on their needs, collect an invoice, and off you go. You don't see them for another 12 months. That's not how we operate, and it's not how we want to operate, and it's not how good business should be done anyway. So that, I think, has to be a key priority for me. It's prioritising the relationship-driven approach while also becoming a key partner in that research and innovation ecosystem in Ireland.
How have we been doing that, Darragh? Because I know that we've been working together on some things. So what's been the strategy that you've had to embed ourselves in the ecosystem? Yeah,
absolutely. And you're right. So obviously, Sarah, while you also being a host of this podcast, you also I also give plenty of actions and tasks to your desk as well. It's interacting with a lot of what I'd call the interfacing overlaps of industry, of the ecosystem. So there's effectively 3 pillars. There's academia, there's business, and then there's government. Okay, and we need to sit in that interface between all 3 effectively and be able to act as an enabler. Absolutely, our key priority is, serve our business clients. Absolutely, But in order to do that, and to do that more effectively, and to do that in a long-term basis, we need to be able to interact with the academic pillars and partners as well as also the government levers that are driving policy as well. And the very large amount of the likes of the technology gateways, the Enterprise Ireland technology gateways, and also the research centres that are funded by Research Ireland, because they all have that role between industry, academic, research and innovation as well. So absolutely building partnerships, not just transactional engagements, but partnerships with those stakeholders within the research and innovation ecosystem. It has to be a key priority. The second part I'd say to that then is actually positioning Leyton as a thought leader within the R&D tax credit space. One of the things I found when I came into the business very quickly is that there is a massive wealth of knowledge and insight that sits within the business. And part of my role and my job now is actually to extract that insight and actually get it out into the wider world and position that, yes, we are a global consulting firm, absolutely, but we are also looking to push the boundaries and that we have our clients back as well.
Great. Pulling back slightly from the bigger business strategy and looking more closely at the opportunities that are there for your new and growing team, how do you approach creating a culture where people can grow and succeed at a company like Leyton?
Sure, and I mean, it sounds like a really simple question and a really simple ask, but it's probably the most difficult thing that sits on my desk, and it's probably the one piece that keeps me awake at night. I am a big believer in the old adage that culture eats strategy for breakfast. You can have all the business priorities that you want, but if there is a toxic environment or a toxic culture that exists within your office or within your business, you're dead. You know, you're on a fixed timeline and you're only going one direction. How will I look to provide that culture? Well, ultimately, you mentioned the word earlier that we talk about leadership and that my role says business lead. Being a leader or being labelled as a leader actually sits quite uncomfortably with me. I don't like to be labelled like that. I prefer to try and approach it as an enabler. Do you know? I don't look hierarchical. I prefer to look on a flat engagement model where it's we all work together rather than you work for me. Nobody works for me, they work for themselves, ultimately. And I look to create a culture where people feel psychologically safe to work and operate, to be themselves authentically, to have the space to make mistakes and to learn those mistakes, and also to be held accountable within all that. So it's my role and it's my responsibility, and as I said, it is the one piece that sits probably most heavily on me, is to make sure that everybody feels supported and enabled to perform to their fullest ability. So that's how I'm looking to drive the culture within the office in Dublin.
I mean, I think anyone listening, that sounds like a really great environment to drive a career. You said you're recruiting for people with on the sales side and also the consulting side of the business. Why would someone, or why should someone consider working for Leyton Ireland and taking a chance on, as you say, a brand that's maybe not as well known as others in the country?
Yeah, and there's multiple parts. I think I'd go back to part at the start where I said the office at the moment is in a really dynamic, agile, entrepreneurial phase at the moment, and it will be for the next number of years. I always say to people, you are never going to be a cog in a wheel at Leyton Ireland. To be honest, you're never going to be a cog in a wheel at Leyton full stop, but in particular within the Irish office. There is opportunity to do a bit of everything. That also means sometimes parking one or two bits at the front door as well, and actually just maybe downing tools and just mucking in, rolling the sleeves up, whatever that may be. I was talking to one of the guys last week and we were chatting away and we were talking about doing a careers fair, and I said, oh look, there's boxes of merchandise that are up in the office, and the office currently is 4 stories up with no lift, and it was just a case of, well, you just have to roll the sleeves up and carry those boxes down. So one minute you may be making phone calls to prospective clients or making sure that your clients are looked after, next of all you're carrying boxes into the boot of a car to head off to a careers fair. No 2 days are going to be the same. That doesn't suit everybody, and it's only a certain type of person that will be very happy to live, exist and thrive in that environment. But I think it is a fantastic opportunity for somebody to come in now and to be able to look back in 5 or 10 years' time when the office has scaled and it is so much bigger than it is at the moment, and be able to take that point in time and look back and go, I was part of building that. From day one or very early stages, there's a part of me in there from the start. So I think if that is the type of person that you are and that aligns with how you want to be and how you want to operate, then Leyton Ireland is the place for you.
Definitely. Ambitious, people who are agile, that's the sort of people that will get on well in that environment. So looking ahead for the long-term future of Leyton Ireland. What is your vision? Do you have one?
I absolutely do, and I think I spoke a small bit already. I touched a small bit on the scaling plans of where the headcount might go and where the office size could go, and I think there's massive revenue opportunity targets within the business to scale. But ultimately, the sky is the limit in terms of Leyton Ireland. I stopped limiting myself a number of years ago to say that, the Leyton Irish office could only grow or scale to a certain size. It absolutely could not. It could absolutely grow to become an absolute behemoth and become just a day-to-day name within the Irish market that is recognised alongside everybody else that sits out there within the global consulting market. So I think that's my vision, and my vision ultimately what that means is that Leyton would transition from being seen as a partner to actually becoming a trusted advisor, as well as being that partner within the research and innovation ecosystem in Ireland. And that is built on those key pillars of absolute delivery, compliance, 100% compliance-led delivery for our client base, build a sticky client base that actually is very happy to stay with Leyton and be our clients year on year for a long term. Push the boundaries in terms of driving insight and innovation within the market, and then also sitting in that thought leadership point, thinking strategically, leading strategically within the Irish market, and becoming a voice that the likes of the government department, policy makers listen to and take seriously and take on board.
Yeah, and that so much of that comes down to having you at the helm and then the right people in the team that work alongside you to drive that. But I trust that vision will come true, Darragh. You're on a mission.
I am, and it is because ultimately I also want to be able to look back in 10, 15 years time and go, I was in there from day zero.
Day one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Darragh, thank you so much for having this conversation with me. Is there anything else you wanted to add before we wrap up?
No, absolutely not. Or the one thing I would say is that the last 2 weeks I've spent at careers fairs in both UCD and DCU, and I have to say I've been genuinely blown away by the next generation of talent, or the next generation of people that are coming through the system. As you can probably tell, it's a long time since I was in university or in college. So I have to say I was really heartened by the people and the multiple conversations. I would not have been able to carry myself the way a lot of these students did at the careers fair that I met. So absolutely, in particular to those emerging graduates, whether it's coming out of an undergrad or whether it's coming out of a master's, if what I've said today sounds like they could fit with you and be a good fit with you, please get in touch and just feel free to connect and find out if Leyton is the place for you or not.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Darragh. Really, really valuable conversation. And thank you to everyone for listening along at home. We are going to be back in a month or so's time with our next episode. But until then, if you are interested in a career at Leyton, you can reach out to Darragh. I'm sure he'd welcome a direct introduction to yourself. Or you can reach out to our talent acquisition team at talentcommunity@leyton.com. But yeah, that's been the Life at Leyton podcast. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Sarah.